Hi, hello, welcome to Spell Day, where we're covering a spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHB plus 3. Those plus 3 spells are homebrew spells, we're at plus 2 at the moment. You gotta back in the playlist to find them, and today's spell is Time Stop.
It was me, Barry.
9th level Transmutation, casting time with 1 action, range of self, components verbal, duration, instantaneous. You briefly stop the flow of time for everyone but yourself. No time passes for other creatures while you take 1d4 plus 1 turns in a row, during which you can use actions and move as normal. The spell ends if one of the actions you use during this period or any effect that you create during this period affects a creature other than you or an object being worn or carried by someone other than you. In addition, the spell ends if you move to a place more than 1,000 feet from the location where you cast it. We got a complex one here, because it doesn't actually stop time. I mean, it kind of does, but not by its wording. Essentially, if it was stopping time, like it does in the D&D movie to a sense, it would be an aura radius, and it would last multiple turns. The fact that it says instantaneous, that means everything that it affects, including the other turns you have, all happens within the same moment, instantaneously. And not to mention the radius. If it was time stop over everything, essentially it's time break. A time break would be more accurate, but also that would bring up more questions and be a little more confusing. Time stop, cool name. Honestly, people look to it, some people might pick it up because they think it looks great, and then they read some of the stipulations. Though it's not concentration, that's something in its favor. Namely some of the issues. 9th level, but that kind of makes sense for what you can possibly do with it. Action, verbal, self, instantaneous, not bad combinations all to put together for an effect. It's virtually just giving you extra turns. Just you, the one caster. The problem with that is you can't use it to do damage or certain activities. One, you can't leave. You are now bound to a 1,000-foot area, and if you do leave it, the spell ends. But if you stay within it, you have 1d4 plus 1 turns. That's not bad. But outside of its interpretation within the game and how it actually mechanically interacts with time around it, time break I think would be more accurate, which would mean it's less like the D&D movie. What would that effect be then? But while this doesn't make up for sheer power or the ability to actually exploit it, because if you attack or affect anything that someone has, the spell ends. So theoretically you can only interact with the battlefield and yourself. But any exterior effect you do also goes on for that round, unless it directly impacts another person. Then again, spell ends. So this is used in 2 ways that I've usually seen. Anything that requires a charge up time, so delayed blast fireball, you get a few free returns with that to cook up. And then the combo spell, because normally whenever we say, like on any of these other spells that like, hey, yeah, if you have time to prep, or you set this up ahead of time, or these spells would go really good together, but you would either have to have someone else cast it, or you would need multiple turns ahead of time to start casting it, so when you enter combat or are surprised, it's not good to do it in the moment. This isn't in the moment by making your own moment. So in the middle of combat, while you could theoretically buff yourself with a bunch of different spells, it's hard to stack those, especially since a lot of them are either concentration or don't last that long. So you can't cast all of them ahead of time. You have to cast them like right before battle or just in the first round of battle. This allows you to do this at the start of a battle, with however many turns you have and actions worth. Though the other one I've seen used a lot to fun extent, or at least heard of being used, is things like Wall of Stone, other terraforming spells, just however much you can screw up the battlefield or where people are, or the whole Wall of Stone, make a cage, and use your last action to a hold action, so that when it stops, you're technically going again with your reaction already. Though that one I've also seen argued as you can't do that, but I don't know. But you can't even do this to buff allies, so really, all you're looking at is either cooking time for charge things, and then things like delayed blast fireball. I'm sorry, just the phrase cooking time. It's got a chuckle. Terraforming the battlefield, changing where everything is, maybe booking it. I mean, yeah, sure, the spell's gonna end after 1,000 feet, but this is a few turns to get 1,000 feet away. And since you can't actually buff your allies, and it's not just harmful things that were restricted, but just doing anything with anyone else, it's just buffing yourself for those few turns. So if you want a boss, this is a good spell to pull out that stops to just have them in the middle of a fight or being ambushed, snap, and then all of a sudden they just have 4 different rounds worth of buffs layered on them. The downside is only one of them can be concentration. Luckily time stop isn't, but you're still not, well, you can cast all of these technically within 1 turn to everyone else's perspective, it doesn't stop concentration from not stacking. So as much as it is a 9th level spell and I can get it for stopping time, its actual utility is a bit lacking, because it requires other spells or features to use. You're burning a lot of spell slots. Now, depending on what your kit is, what you have prepared, what the actual scenario and what you're fighting, or what your goal of casting time stop is, you might be able to make the most of it, but you might not because you roll for how long it lasts. You can only have 2 rounds. Then it's up to what you have prepared, again the whole scenario, and the fact it's taking a 9th level spell slot. I mean, there's a lot of other 9th level spells that are way better picks than this. 4 out of 10. Namely because the combos you can pull off are good, but you need to prepare and know a list of spells, and that's also depending the character build, the situation and fight you're in particularly. This relies too much on allowing you to exploit other things, but then not letting you go to the full lengths of what you imagine Time Stop or 9th level spell would allow you to do, or allow you to do with other spells that are of equal level or slightly lower. Shame, really.